Boom. Fear and uncertainty crisis. Tony, will you
Boom.
do like a some kind of a frightening sound effect?
Oh. Do, 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 do. No, that was terrible. I
Yeah.
wasn't aware of this. I'm just wondering why the guy on the left is so much smaller than the guy on the right. Am I the one on the left?
You are the one on the left about to be crushed
I
by a
thought
rock.
so. I ain't getting crushed by nothing. I'm gonna win.
I love it. All right. Well, we kind of mentioned this a little bit on last week's session. We just kind of like went over it real quick, but as time's moving forward, we know that things are, really changing, and it's there's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now, a lot of fear going on, and a lot of talk about it's going to get worse or it's going to get better or it's going to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or oh it's going to be 3 4 months, oh it's going to be the next 18 months, and all this other uncertainty, which we can't control any of that stuff, right? We can't control any of that. All we can do is control how we react to what's going on in the world right now and how things are shifting. I know this kind of came up with me, and Tony had asked me. He said, "Hey, I have this client that's having challenges, and they're a little worried about continuing to pay me, and they were a restaurant, right? So because of that, and actually even which is very similar, as my dad had called me a couple days ago and left me a message saying, hey, can we talk, because we got the notice that they're in Dublin, California, and they got the notice that they need to shut down the dining part, which is where he made most of his money, and all we can do is take to go orders, takeout orders. So, I had a call with him, and I, told him exactly what to do and what he needs to do to kind of shift around this. Now, obviously, this is all like horrible and we wish this never happened, but, we got to kind of roll with the punches because we have no other choice other than just laying down and crawling up in a ball, or sticking our head in the sand and and pretending like nothing's happening, and then eventually your house will be taken away from you, or you'll be kicked out of where you're living. You won't be able to pay for food, all that kind of stuff. So obviously, we want to take action, and we want to take action right away. So this is creating opportunities. And just like every other time in history, whether it's a bad pandemic, or whether there's a shift in the world, or consumers, change their habits, whatever it is, there's always going to be new opportunities, and those that take advantage, meaning that they actually get started and start, servicing that shift. So they start coming up with solutions and things that people want during those shifts. Those are the ones that are not only going to survive, but they're going to thrive, and they're going to be able to stay in business. And so you got to kind of look at this as like, okay, what can I do now to help my current clients and people out there that could be my potential clients? Because you've got life preservers, and you're sailing on this little boat in this big vast ocean with all these business owners that are treading water, and they're some of them are already too exhausted because they're paycheck to paycheck. And some of them, they had to shut down, so they have no money reserves at all. So they're drowning already. They're already starting to, suck water in. So now it's a shift of having to convince a lot of people versus please help me. And when I first got started in this business, offering these services, it was in the middle, nah, more towards the beginning, but maybe 2 years in, 1 2 years in to the recession that we had last time in like 2007, 2008, in there. So it was around that time, around 2007, 2008, that I was offering services, and it was a lot easier, which is crazy. Like you would think it wasn't as easy, right? But it was because people were willing to listen. Well, now people are going to be willing to listen a lot more. At least the smart ones are, because when you talk to them about the importance of people finding them online, and so they can order their services or their takeout or whatever it is that they offer, emergency services for plumbers or painting or whatever, they need, they're going to realize the importance of that. Not only that, but when I was telling people before, business owners, hey, you need to start building your email list. You need to start building your subscriber list of people that you offer service to, because in that way, when if you have a new offer or something, you need to let people know about your current customers that like you and eat or do service with you, you can have a direct line of contact to them. But again, most people didn't do anything. But you know what? Today, those people that weren't really listening, they see the importance of it today. So whether it's building an email list, an SMS cell phone list, so they can keep in contact and make offers, or Instagram account, or a YouTube account or something like that, they're going to see that importance now, and they're going to see the value in that. So you do have to make some shifts on either what you offer, your packages. Maybe you give away something for free to keep them on if they're paying you 1,000 a month. Maybe you offer some free consulting to help them kind of make some shifts. Maybe you charge them a couple grand for consulting. You say, hey, it's $1,000 and I'll not only consult with you on what you need to shift and what you need to change, I'm also going to set up this. And then they pay you a monthly fee to continue that. So to help set them up an email campaign, or to help them set up, where they can build an email list of their current customers, or maybe they already have an email list, but they don't have it set up in an autoresponder, or how to build up an SMS list so you can keep in contact, or to do paid ads like with Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for you to help them make more money while you're getting paid as well. And
Hell
I'll go
yeah.
more into that, but I'll let Tony kind of add some.
I'm just gonna rant because guys, I'm really curious actually in the chat box, questions box, just write kind of how you feel about all of this, or all of this this containment, this quarantining. How do you feel about this situation? Because while you write that, and just write what, there's no right or wrong answer about this. While you write that, I want to tell you how I feel. I feel like this is the biggest opportunity of our generation. I sound like I'm pitching an MLM. I realize this, but listen, back in the day, back in the I've said this to the rest of the team loads of times. They're sick of hearing me say it. Back in the Great Depression, back in 1929, it was, that's when there was a huge surge of millionaires were made, and they were selling just small little luxuries. Now, people aren't going to be buying luxuries during a depression, you think, but these little booklets didn't cost much, and they were little treats, and they were justifiable. And people are going to be spending more on these little justifiable treats. And if you can help people to deliver that, well, then you're the person not digging for gold, but you're selling the shovels and the pickaxes to the people digging for gold. And back in the gold rush, they're the first wave of millionaires, with the people selling the pickaxes and the shovels. And you're helping people to make an impact in their communities. And yes, you're here to learn how to do the rank and rent model. I get that. But if you go about this with blinders on, then you're doing yourself and these other businesses a disservice, because they may really, really need help just getting the word out on social media, and they don't know what they're doing, but you might know a bit more than them, and that's all you need, is a little bit more than them. There's so many things happening now. Restaurants are turning to doing takeout, and there's like the building I'm in right now, our office is connected to a big fruit and vegetables supplier, and they supply local hospitals, but 80% of their income comes from schools. Well, this week, today, all the schools in the UK shut down until September. This guy is pooping his pants, to say the least. So I went and had a chat with him this afternoon. What they're doing is they're opening up for the first time in 30 years. They're opening up to the public to be like a farmer's market where you can come in and you can buy your fruit and vegetables and other stuff that you can't get in the stores. So they're adapting to that. They're doing home deliveries and stuff. So people need to innovate and adapt. And sometimes they're just freaking out so much that they just need to talk to you, their trusted advisor, the person that they've seen posting on Facebook and Instagram and stuff about doing or all this online business. They just might need to talk to you, and you say, have you considered this? Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? And next thing you know, you're helping them and they're staying open and they're paying you for that. And it's the community are looking for leaders. This is what I'm saying. And you can be that leader for your community. That's what I'm already doing around here. And it's people who've hemmed and hawed, as you say in the States, or ummed and ahed, as we say in England. People who've ummed and ahed about this online stuff, suddenly they're coming to me saying, okay, I need help right now. How can you help me right now? So that's my thing. Be the person, step up, be the leader. And like I said, it sounds like an MLM pitch, but this is needed right now, and you can do this.
Yeah, so exactly what Tony and I have been saying. I mean, there's other things that you can offer as well. Is I said consulting with your packages, so you can still include the stuff that you're doing right now. So that way, when things make a shift and a change, and we go back to what's somewhat normal, it's always going to be a little different, but to our advantage. But then you're still offering those other services that you're offering. So you're not abandoning any of those things. Now you're just kind of shifting of what you're including, right? So you might take a little bit more work on your part, but you're going to have more opportunity as well. And choose whatever you're already good at or what already interests you. So you can help them set up a YouTube, channel and help them get a couple videos out or something like that. And then you could do the maintaining on that, maybe some new content every month with them. Maybe you can help record them, so you get on like a Zoom or you get on Skype and you record it. And maybe you could do something like that where you do that like once a month or once a week or something like that. And that's one of your packages. And you could do that for different business owners depending on what services they offer, if that fits, because obviously you're not going to be able to do that so much for a house painter that only makes money by going to people's houses and painting, or a plumber. Now, granted, you could sell like how to paint your own house and here's tips and things like that. So, you could do something like that online with them. But, there's not to say you still couldn't work with a painter, helping them create videos to promote their service in their local area. So you can do something like that. You can help them set up a podcast. You can run the podcast for them and charge them a fee. You could help them set up a TikTok channel, which is it's really growing right now. We talked about that last week, and Tony had even given like some examples of some people that are successfully using that for their local services. Or is it not even a local service? It's actually for a service. Um,
Hmm.
and then Instagram as well, so you can help them set up Instagram. You can help them set up some e-commerce stores, so if it fits for their niche. So if I guess a good example would be, let's say, a crystal store, right? I'm just pulling something out of the top of my head, or a toy store, right? So if you got a local, let's say, crystal shop, which we have some around here, and they don't sell anything online, maybe helping them set up an e-commerce store can be the thing that you do. You help them like set up the photographer, or you come in and take photos yourself on your own phone. You set up the site with them. You use something on WordPress, an e-commerce site, and then you set up the shopping cart. And you can charge thousands of dollars to do this. I mean, heck, you can charge, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and this is going to be considered a steal for them compared to what they've been quoted by other people probably. So that is something you can do as well. And on top of that, if there are things that you don't know how to do yourself and you don't want to have to learn how to do those things yourself, you can outsource those. When I first started, I wasn't great at creating custom WordPress sites for my clients, because that's what I had to use was WordPress, because we didn't have Word, or we didn't have uh, what is
Sparksio.
Sparksio. I was saying Sparker, but I'm like, wait, what the hell's it called? Sparksio. So I had to use WordPress. Well, what did I have to do? Because we didn't have those great templates that WordPress has today, and it wasn't as easy. So I had to actually outsource. I hired somebody. I went to Upwork, which is UPWORK, and I hired people to actually do that for me. What is it called? Freelancers. And I would get somebody in like either Bangladesh or in the US or the UK, or they were all over the place. And the people that I hired, they would do it for a fraction of the cost, right? So they would charge me, like, let's say they might charge $200 to $500. I'm just throwing numbers out there to help set up an e-commerce site, right? So they're not going to add all the pictures or anything like that, or maybe they'll do it hourly after that point. But the thing is that you're hiring that person, you're paying that person from the money that you already got paid by that other customer. So you might collect 5 grand and you turn around and hire somebody for $500 or $1,000. You're keeping 4 grand and you're not doing any other additional work. You're not setting all that stuff up. That's just how business works, right? It's just like, at my dad's restaurant, he doesn't go around seating all the customers and taking their order and then going and cooking the food and doing all that stuff. He has waitresses. So he makes the bulk of the money, and then he pays the waitresses and the cooks, the chef, the dishwasher. Everybody gets paid an hourly wage, right? So let's say it costs, let's say for that day he made, let's say 3 grand in cash for, in meals or whatever. I'm just throwing numbers out there. He made 3 grand in cash. He might be only paying, 400 or 500 bucks in hourly wages for that day, right? So is that wrong? No, you're hiring and you are managing your staff. So you had to hire the staff, you had to manage the staff, and and fix things as as things kind of happen, and made sure they stayed on time and all that stuff. So that's what you're doing. You're being the project manager and you're managing everything. So your client would never have any direct communication with the person actually doing the service. Does that make
And the
sense?
other thing to think about, guys, is when this crisis is over, what's going to happen to this new revenue stream? They're not going to ditch it, are they? They're not just going to throw away this home deliveries or whatever. That's another whole new revenue stream. So you can sell them on a whole new revenue stream. I can't think of a better word for it. On a whole new half of their business potentially.
Yeah, and it's gonna to at end. It's to me just I just see it like it exploding completely.
Yeah, and
Like it's
courses
gonna be
too.
awesome. Yeah.
There's courses. So I mean, you might either there might be a dance teacher, or there might be a yoga studio, or an exercise class or something, or a gym or something like that. And here's the opportunity now for them to create an online presence and create a course, a do it at home course, and that'll open up a whole new world for them. And you could actually make yourself a partner on those kind of opportunities. We call those record deals, and we've done that plenty of times where we went in and we said, okay, well, you've got an extra expertise in something. We're going to go ahead and have you. I'm going to help you create this course. I'm going to help structure it and put it together and edit it and all that stuff. I'll get all this stuff done, and you don't have to do it all yourself, but you can. And then you will get a percentage of that. You could either go 50-50, or it could be 80% you, 20% them, or it could be 20% you, 80% them. It just depends on how much work they're doing versus the work you're doing. Because just them recording some stuff is one thing, but you have to set up everything else. You have to help drive the traffic and all that other stuff. So, personally, myself, if I'm doing all that other stuff, I'm not going to do, well, I wouldn't do any less than 50-50. But if it's me, I'm probably going to do something like a 70-30 or a 60-40, where I get the higher number, and they're not going to really care because it's not like they were going to do this on their own anyways, right?
Exactly. And most of these people, most of these business, at least everyone I've spoken with in the last week or two, they've all been meaning to do this. They've been meaning to get round to doing it. So, for example, this farmers market cash and carry that he's opening in the fruit and veg place where I am now, he's got a banner. He's just pulled this banner out saying fruit and veg cash and carry. He's had it for 2 years and never bothered to get round to putting this out and advertising it and telling the local area and all this sort of thing. Well, now suddenly he's got a big old incentive to do it because he is going to be on his ass if he doesn't do it. Same as the local restaurants. There's an Italian restaurant I've been working with, like Dan mentioned. A friend of mine has a restaurant. He needs £5,000 a week to meet his bills, to meet his overheads, his staff, his stock, and everything. Well, just last week, was it last week? Oh no, the week before last, we launched his home delivery service, and then this happened. And he's like, I wish I'd done this sooner. Setting up email lists, setting up text lists, SMS lists, and stuff like that. They all wish they'd done it sooner. So you're not coming to them with some crazy new idea. It's probably something they've already thought of, and they've since thought, damn it, I wish I'd done this sooner. You can come in and you can help them with this.
Exactly. And I mean, speaking about my own myself and my family, I mean, me and my wife have been putting it off for a while and we keep making notes, but we just haven't started recording yet. We're going to create a homeschooling course on how to homeschool. And from that we'll create, an app, we'll create software, like a whole program online, and we might even do certification at some point as well for people to homeschool people's families at their house. So they'll go around and homeschool people, homeschool their kids for them, for people that have got the money and for private school but want to actually do it at home. So there's so many opportunities, and now we've got the time, right? I mean, heck, what I'm really excited about is the fact that we're not eating out anymore right now. So because we're not going out and eating out and spending money, like, going out and just shopping and buying crap we don't need, man, I'm going to be saving a lot of money every single month. So I'm going to be saving money, and I'm going to be bored at home creating more courses and creating some of this stuff. So it is an exciting time when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, you're not going to be spending the money and you're going to be at home. Now, what happens when you spend time at home with your significant other? I know,
Big
at least in
babies.
my house, well, yes, there's the babies, and in 13 years we'll have the rise of the quarantines. But
Yeah.
in my house, if we're in the house more than one day, Gemma starts to find what she calls blue jobs. In our house, we have pink jobs and blue jobs. Blue jobs usually involve power tools. She starts noticing things that need doing around the house. Now, I have a rank and rent website that's not yet leased out to an electrician in the Ipswich area in England. And I got a phone call yesterday asking me for a quotation to completely rewire their house. And they're having an extension built, so to have it go on into the extension. So, yes, people might be losing money, but there's lots of people who, A, have money put aside, B, are working from home on their full wage. So don't panic thinking, oh, nobody's got any money. People are buying things and they're sat there looking at all these problems. So yeah, and a lot of people don't think this is going to last that long. So this is a great time for your customers to be lining up the jobs. And if there's an emergency or if some essential work needs doing, no lockdown's going to get in the way of that. If you need a plumber, you need a plumber. Now, people aren't
Exactly.
going to need, they're not going to need yoga classes. That's where online, they're not going to need music lessons or dance classes. That's not essential, but there's some things
Well, they're going to
that
need it, but they're not going to be willing to drive out to, risk
exactly
their
what
health. So, like you said,
exactly. They're not
they're going to need
supposed
it at
to.
home.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you guys want me
Exactly.
to bring up, like, let me know if you guys want me to talk more about, like, some of the examples I gave my dad, who owns a restaurant, of what he could do to actually make money, because he was really worried about this, and I gave him a bunch of ideas, and even Tony and me were talking about it because he has some restaurant clients that were, very fearful as well, and we came up with some solutions to help them kind of expand. And, just coming in with some of these examples that we're sharing, restaurants might be the best business to actually target, right? One of the best businesses to target. At first, I was thinking, like, oh man, that would be the worst to target. I think we talked about that last week. That's going to be a hard one.
Mm.
But now that we came up with some opportunities, when we actually put on our thinking heads and said, hey, this is a challenge, but what's some of the new opportunities coming from it? Like, what can we
Mm.
do? And I was like getting actually excited about that. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So, yeah, so people
people
are
want to
saying,
hear
yeah.
it, Dan.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
people
the
still
first
bring
thing,
up those silly.
yeah, the first thing I did is I told my dad, I said, okay, number one, are you even like set up with like DoorDash or Uber Eats or Postmates or Grubhub or these are all in the U.S. So I don't know what you guys have in the other countries, but you're probably going to have some other kind of food delivery service that will go to restaurants. Somebody will go to a restaurant, pick up the food, and deliver it for them because most restaurants except for old pizza places, typically don't have their own delivery. And a lot of them stop delivering themselves because they realize they could just use those other services. So I asked my dad if he had that because I thought he had set something up because he talked about it a while back, but he never did. And I'm like, okay, that's the first thing you need to do because because right there, that's where you're going to get traffic. You're going to get traffic immediately by having yourself on as many of those services as you can, right? So that's the first thing I told him to do. Now, my dad's not tech savvy. So I told him, I said, hey, why don't you do this, right? Why don't you take one of your waitresses or hosts that works there at the restaurant or maybe previously worked for you that's somewhat tech savvy, that has an Instagram account and is always on their phone and understands, how to use some of this technology, whether it be YouTube or whatever. I'm not talking about an SEO expert. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm just talking about somebody that knows how to use a phone, a smartphone and knows how to navigate on Instagram and things like that. Because if they can do that, they can figure out the rest of the stuff, right? And I said, find that person, offer them $50 to $100 and one time to set up these services for you. So hey, here's $100, and I just need you to help me set up, Grubhub, Postmates, and all these other services that need to be set up, right? So that was the first thing that I told him to do. Now, it's funny is after I brought that up, he said his brother who owns a restaurant that's maybe 20-minute drive from where he is. So my dad's in Dublin, California, or at least that's where the restaurant is. And my uncle's restaurant is actually in Danville. So he had just told my dad that he had done because he's only doing, orders to go as well. And he said he's doing about 70% of what he normally does, which is freaking awesome considering all he is probably on one or two of those services and he's not doing any additional marketing himself on top of that. So right there it kind of gives you a little bit of light because number one, he's also going to be saving more money on staff, which sucks for the staff because he's not going to be paying the full staff and everybody to kind of handle the amount of people coming in, but there's opportunities for their waitresses and their hosts as well. If you want to continue helping your staff out, which I hope you do, or I hope they do, you could also give them more opportunities where maybe they are driving the meals to customers as well. So if you're doing your own marketing to get people to call the restaurant instead of using those services, you can actually give them like a special bonus or a discount or something like that if they do that, but there's opportunity there as well. And I told him to go ahead and sign up for a couple local Facebook groups because typically every city has like at least one, if not more, Facebook groups, whether it's like, garage sales or selling, particular items, or it's a community group. Like we have one here in Coto de Caza, and I'm seeing every day people updating everybody about what's in certain stores and what's in, where can I get eggs? Where can I get milk? Does anybody know who delivers? Where can I get this and that? So I said, sign up on those things and let people know that you are offering delivery or they can order on DoorDash or whatever, and that you have certain items. And that actually brings me to the next point, which is I told him, why not also offer other things? Because we were talking about it, and he was saying, oh, yeah, the restaurant supply store that he goes to, they have plenty of toilet paper. So it's like, okay, well, get your toilet paper and why not offer that? You can either sell toilet paper, which is completely different than what he normally does, being a restaurant, but why not offer to sell toilet paper? Why not to offer to sell eggs? So you can sell a carton of eggs or whatever because he gets them in bulk. Why not milk? Why not cleaning supplies? Maybe meat that's not even cooked, just kind of either freeze it or package it or whatever. Pre-made frozen reheat, which is actually what I didn't even I forgot about that, but this is something Tony was mentioning, and I actually order meals from an online store myself. I've been doing it for a while as either backup or when I don't feel like cooking. I use a company called Vestro, Veestro. It's all plant based, vegan, and you can order from like I don't know how many options they have. They probably have like 30, 40 different options or something like that. But I usually order 30 meals, and I just keep them just in case we don't feel like cooking or whatever, and then you just put them in an oven and heat at like 400 for like 15, 20 minutes depending on the item, and it comes out and it's good. So that's something that my dad could offer as well, is creating a meal and then freezing it, and then people can take them home and reheat it and eat it, or you can give them the ingredients, right? Which you can, I don't personally like that option, but some restaurants are going to like that kind of an option, right? Where you can, give them, okay, well, here's the recipe to make this yourself, and here are the items, to make that yourself as well. But there's opportunity there. There are successful online, places that offer here's the ingredients, cook. I forgot what is it called, like Purple Cow or something. What is it called? Do you know that one, Tony?
Sorry, I minimized the doodah. In England, we there's one called Gusto. I don't know what they call them, something box, recipe box or something, recipe boxes.
What's it called?
In England, we've got Gusto.
Oh,
There's
purple
I think
carrot,
there's
I
one
think
called
is what it's called here.
Fresh Box or something.
Yeah, purple carrot, where they give you the ingredients and then you just kind of put it together yourself. So that's another option too. But the bottom line is that there's so many different opportunities that they can make a change. They can make a shift, and that can become a new part of their business or a whole separate entity that they create that they might be more successful with, less stress because they're not dealing with so many staff members calling in sick. I mean, my dad, man, I remember all the days when I worked there even, but when he continues to work there. And if a cook, that's supposed to open the restaurant calls in sick, and they usually, a lot of times they'll do it like the same day, like the morning of, they'll be like at 5 in the morning, I'm sick, I'm not coming in. Then my dad has to get a new car and drive down there in the middle of the morning, early morning in the dark, and he has to go open the restaurant and get everything set up and do all that stuff until the next, for like 2, 3 hours until somebody can come in and take that other person's place because it was too last minute notice. And that happens with the waitresses as well. I mean, it happens all the time and it sucks. So it might be a new business for them that they actually enjoy more, right?
Yep.
And then I mentioned as well, like, they can post stuff on.
There's just so much opportunity for people to slightly tweak.
Yeah, yeah. And like I was saying, that you get that tech savvy person in the restaurant and or in their location, and they can also post in those Facebook groups. And they could say, hey, and they could look for those, they can post something themselves so they're not spamming the group. But then after that, they can wait for people to also like ask questions, and then they can say, hey, we sell that here, and they can be on the lookout that for every couple hours, they could have a computer open at the restaurant or whatever location or whatever service they're offering. And you can post on Craigslist. I don't know how well that'll work, but why not try, right? Post something on Craigslist, on their own Facebook page, and if they don't have one, set it up for them. Yelp, you can make a note on Yelp too. You have special hours, and it's in dine only and a special menu as well, so you can put that on there. You could do Facebook ads, Instagram ads, right? You could offer that service for them, or you could outsource that and you could charge them a flat fee or an ongoing fee, and then take from that money and pay that outsourcing person that you're paying. There are services out there that do that for people. You could do a street sign on the side of the road that says, "We got eggs, we got toilet paper," you know, things like that. Um, and Yeah, and then another thing too is, and I don't know this because I've never actually done it myself, but if you call, like, I don't know who raises the prices, but a lot of people's fears, like restaurant owners will say, like, well, DoorDash will take, and I don't know the number they take, but let's say they take 20 or 30% of the cost of whatever the person pays, and that's too much money. Well, number one, no, it's not, because number one, you wouldn't have had that customer because they're the ones that brought that traffic in for you, right? Number two, you don't have to pay a driver. You're not paying a waitress. You're not paying, all this staff and all this other stuff and this, excess use of electricity and all these other things. So you're saving money there too. But you could also raise your prices for those services. So your normal menu item, maybe it's $10 for a meal, for one particular meal, right? Well, you can charge $11. So you can charge $1 extra for each item. And I see this happen all the time with all the restaurants that I order from. It's at least $1 more if I order through those services versus just coming in and getting it myself. Anything to
Yeah.
add?
I think one of the key things for folks to really grasp onto is that these aren't regular times, and you may have had a plan, but now is the time for people to improvise and adapt and overcome. And some people are just freaking the F out right now. You can be the calm voice of reason that comes to them with ideas and suggestions on how they can just stay afloat. And afterwards, this may well present itself to be a long-term thing for their business. So you may, for example, one of our attendees, who is it, Benjamin, is saying, yeah, this is great. He said earlier, this is great opportunity for takeout orders, but how can we build online assets to take leads and orders? I'm assuming he means for things like the solar. I think everybody needs to just adapt and be flexible, because for the longest time they kept trying to make the axles on ships that turn the propellers. They kept trying to make them from stronger and stronger and more rigid steel, but if they hit anything they would shatter. And instead somebody said, well, what if we made it softer so that it could take the impact, it could take the blows, it could adapt, it could just be like the reed, be the reed and the river that just bends and goes with the flow. That's what everybody needs to do. And it often takes a case of just stopping and choosing. First off, before you can help anyone else, you need to help yourself. You need to fit your own oxygen mask. You need to stop and think, okay, this is the situation. This is happening. I'm not going to argue with reality. And it can even help to write down all the positives that you can think of this situation. People are rekindling their passion for music because they've just not had time for it. People are spending time with their children when they're never normally home. There's so many positives out there, and if you can get these positives just lined up and just write them down, and you're like, do you know what, this is loaded with positives, then you can go with a positive attitude to these people, because literally the filter that you choose to look at all this through, it's going to have repercussions on everything you look at. So if you can just come at this from a really positive perspective, and then come to all these local people, like I said before, be a leader for your community or your industry, and say, I've got some answers. If you want to try these things, you're going to help so many people. So, and yeah, it means just getting creative. And people are going to have to do these uncomfortable things. But do you know what? If you neglect your health, you will be forced eventually to make your health a priority. And I find it pretty weird that people have had all these ideas for their businesses and they've not done them. And look at that, the universe or whatever you want to label it as has made this a priority for a lot of businesses very, very quickly. So
Yeah, there's
that's
so
kind of
many
all I've got to add.
so many
Yeah.
opportunities out there, and we don't have all the answers, but we know there is an answer for everything.
And
So,
I'm sorry to interrupt. There
yeah,
doesn't have to be one correct answer. That's the other thing. You might be a YouTube genius, and that might be enough for that company to get enough attention on YouTube. Did you know, for example, that when you run those YouTube ads, there's annoying ones that you have to click to go away. Unless you watch that for 30 seconds, then that advertiser doesn't have to pay. They don't pay when you click cancel, skip ad, skip ad. They don't pay to see that. Now, a local business, a local restaurant saying, we now deliver. So that's targeted to the local area. That might be a lifeline. And that might be the thing that you do. Whereas somebody else might be a text message person, or they might be really good at social media, making attention grabbing images and stuff,
you don't even
setting
have
up
to
the IFTTT.
you don't even have to be a genius. You just have to know
Yeah,
more than they do, which is
yes,
going to be every case.
exactly.
You can watch 3 YouTube videos on how to do something and you'll know more than
Yes,
99% of them.
yes.
They don't
Genius
have
was
the
the
time for that.
worst word. Yep,
I, li-
yep,
I like what Benjamin's saying. He says, Bruce Lee says, be the
yes.
water and bend and adapt. And I love that analogy. And I shared that on our podcast that I did with my wife, where I talked about that. Be flexible, be the water. I love that. I quoted that. And another example too is when you see water coming down a stream, right? Uh, and there's a rock in its way, does it like try and push that rock out of its way? No, it just flows around it exactly like that. And what's crazy is the more that that water continues to stream around that rock, it continues to, those hard edges become smooth. Like if you've ever seen pebbles in a lake or on a river or something like that, and you've seen like the sides of rocks and stuff, and they're all smooth. That's from thousands and thousands and possibly millions of years of the water chipping away very slowly and smoothing out that hard edge. And that's exactly what you got to do. You got to flow. You got to flow and smooth out those hard edges and be flexible. And that's what we have the opportunity for right now. And yes, Janice,
I
water
feel
is very refreshing.
I feel like we could just go on for days, literally, on this subject. So
Yeah,
let's.
write down all your
No, or
ideas. I mean,
instead,
in
yeah,
different
let's take action.
I would be hard pressed to think of any business that you couldn't do this for. I might not be able to come up right on the spot within, an hour, maybe 2 hours. Maybe I need to meditate on a certain niche or an industry, but I'm pretty sure just about every industry has an opportunity. I mean, heck, even when you talked about like liposuction, right? I mean, there is opportunity there, not obviously for the liposuction, but there could be supplements that actually could help assist them. There is, workout advice or tips or types of things that they can do at home or diet or something like that. So I know they're not going to be offering the actual liposuction, but there are things that because they still want the end result, and there are things that you can actually help them with and charge them for. So there is opportunity in just about every niche and industry I can think of.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? Because we apparently are going for the world record of the longest
We
Rockstar
are.
Jam session at 3 hours 27 minutes almost. Does anybody have any burning questions that we've not covered yet? Anything you need help with? Any? Yeah, but my industry is different. That's probably my favorite question. If that's the case, tell us what industry it is, and we will try and brainstorm on the spot a couple of ideas for you. No guarantees. We are not legal professionals and we are not doctors and we do not play them on the internet. Usual disclaimers. But anything like that you need help with?
Esma's asking, what industries should we focus on now? I mean, I don't think it's changed too much to where I would say, here's the niche you should go into, or here's the industry you should go into. I think, again, it's what we've always been saying is number one, choose something that interests you, or maybe you have an in with. So for me, I started going after mortgage brokers and realtors because I was in that industry. So that was something that I understood and I already kind of knew some people in. So I just used that to kind of network to find some of the movers and shakers in that industry and then got referrals as well that way. So that's how I was able to build my business real quick. And anytime I have to build a new business, that's what I do. So, for instance, when I'm doing my homeschooling course, I'm not going to just go out there blindly saying, okay, now it's out there, now sell, like buy it, please. I'm actually going to also network with people that are in similar industries and people that I know. So, yoga instructors who believe in homeschooling and things like that, that have a following. I'm going to communicate with them and get them to let people know about my course and buy it. So, I'm always looking for ways to leverage it as quick as possible. So, the same thing goes for that. I mean, there are going to be some industries, like I said, I wouldn't go after the the elective surgery type businesses right now. So I wouldn't go after like somebody that does rhinoplasty, plastic surgery, or something like that, because that's not going to be because those aren't going to be open for the next couple weeks because of what's going on here in the US, right? So if you're targeting those would be ones I would avoid. But other ones, emergency services, anything that could be an emergency service or it could be service at somebody's home or delivery or anything like that, those are the ones that I would actually target. Just think of it like
Mm.
this. If you're in the US, I don't know if you are, but I'm just going to use the US as an example, and you're a cautious person, what are some of the services that you would still do right now? And what are some of them that you wouldn't order right now or go and electively do yourself? And just kind of go from that.
And also bear in mind, there's going to be people at home with nothing to do better than get nagged by the other half, especially if it's a home service type thing, saying, right, you said you're going to sort out a new roof. Find some people who can quote us for the new roof. And they'll start the process. They'll start making those short term. Now, this might not mean short term money for you, but you can position these things for that and load up onto the website what we call the vending machine, the virtual vending machine model, where you are putting on like CPA offers where you get paid when people contact those the companies that do things like financing and things like that. That's a good opportunity to kind of get ahead with that, build those assets. Because if you're not ready to sell stuff yet, just build the stuff, and then when all this blows over, whether it's 3 weeks or 3 months, we don't know yet, then you can at least have that stuff ready. So go with something like Dan says, that you have an in where you have a bit of interest or a bit of knowledge, or preferably both.
Yeah, and another industry that you guys, yes, I'm still here. I didn't
Ah,
mention that Tony that Tony mentioned before is divorce
don't say
lawyers.
divorces.
Yes, it is. In China with this for the past 4 months, they had like I think a 12%, 15% increase in divorce.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, wicked increase in divorces because people are staying home together.
Or
Well,
marriage consulting, what is it called? Marriage counseling and
Yeah,
things like that too.
counseling,
Those
yeah.
would be good. And those could be done from home. I mean, right now, they might be really big right now, right? Like, could you
yeah,
imagine? I'll
Mm.
also tell you my wife takes guitar lessons and he normally comes to our house, but the last session we just did over the phone. So she did a FaceTime with him. So there's opportunity for pretty much any industry you can
Yep.
think of, and he could create a course and teach people how to do that as well. I could, if I wanted to make the time, I could say, hey, how about we create a course together? I'll give you 20 or 30% of the profits, and you retain ownership of it, and I own or you own a percentage and we own 50% each, but here's the split as far as pay, right?
Yep. There's
Uh,
just so many opportunities.
Robert's asking, in your experience, what is the best practice for domains and websites as far as a generic domain with subdomain or geospecific domain? And he gave some examples like toilet Nebraska repair.plumbers.com, which would be a subdomain, versus Nebraska toilet repair.com. I recommend getting the main domain. I don't like to use subdomains. I will use them occasionally in certain strategies, but I try to use a different domain, mainly because in that way, if I ever decide to sell any of the assets, I can split them up. So I wouldn't want
Mm.
to have, let's say, I mean, man, if you got plumbers.com, wow, great job. That's going to be an expensive domain. But let's say you did, right? So if you had bestplumbers.com as your domain, and then I wouldn't want to create like, okay, well, uh, Nebraska dot bestplumbers.com, and then the next one Vermont, and the next one Chicago, and the next one Seattle, and it all be dot, because then they're all dot bestplumbers.com, because they're all on the same domain. And if I ever wanted to sell it or split something up, or heck, what if Google came along and decided to blacklist
Mm.
you for one
That
mistake you
one
made?
domain.
Or it's happened to us where a site got hacked because it was WordPress. Our site got hacked, and because of that, there was some like bad malware kind of code on there, and then Google had blocked that site and all the domains that were on that subdomain. So it was like, okay, crap. So I like to keep things unraveled as much as possible, but if it's a particular strategy, then I would still do it.
Mm. Yeah, because also if you think that if you're leasing out those subdomains on one of the trainings back in the day, I think Ben described it as leasing out the basement of your building, and people want the whole building. They want to rent the whole house. They don't want to rent out a room. And also, if you're like Dan says, if you're putting all your eggs in one basket using that one domain, unless you plan on selling the whole concern to a big company, a bit like selling a hotel on, when you get a hotel on Monopoly, all these little houses turn into hotels. If you want to do that, that's fine, but that's a long-term strategy, and yeah, ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, and what I'll do sometimes as well, I know this wasn't in the question, but it kind of relates to it as well, is sometimes if I had like a realtor or something, and they were like, "Hey, I want my own site," um, and what I would do is I would actually rank the the sites that I lease out to them, and then I would create a duplicate of that site and then give them their own version of the same site, just with their own, domain name or whatever they have. And I would put their pictures and all their own information on there, and customize it, to where it's all about them. But I would sell that one to them, so they would own that one, but they wouldn't own the one that I'm spent all the work ranking, right?
Sneaky.
Yeah. It was also a
Right,
way for
let's
me
look at
to
these
offer it
questions.
as a bonus. Like, hey, if you prepay for a year at this price, not only will I give you a month or 2 months free, so you're getting, 12 months, you're getting 14 months for the price of 12. Not only will I give you those 2 months free, but I'm also going to give you your own branded site on top of that, which has a value of $1,000. And I would do that sometimes to get people to sign up for the annual as well. If I felt there was like hesitation, or if I knew they wanted, if it started the conversation by saying, "I want my own site with all my own stuff on there," then I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'll set that up, and I'll also offer this service, and I'll give you that site for free." And they're like, "Whoa, okay."
Hmm. We've got a couple more questions. One of the questions I quite like the look of is Esme is saying, I think businesses are going to need funding. What about lenders? What are your thoughts on this, Dan?
Yeah, I think that's good as well. I mean, it's a good niche as well. Yeah, I think lenders are going to be really good on there now. The one thing that I'm cautious on is there's going to be rules and regulations on how lenders can actually advertise. Because I'll tell you, when I got back into when I got into this and I was going after mortgage brokers, um, I had actually tried to use title agents for the escrow agents to actually, you know, to put me in touch with people to do service for and to kind of work out a deal. Because when I was in the mortgage industry and real estate and all that, their rules were different. They were allowed to market themselves. But then we're talking about a whole different industry. But still, my point is that it had shifted when I came into this, and I was like, oh, so they can't do that anymore. So just be cautious, check into that, and see how that can actually be done. And sometimes it just involves you just contacting one or two or three of potential clients and just talking to them real quick about like, hey, what do they do for online, and what you can help them with, and what are their rules, because they'll tell you like, oh, I'm not allowed to do that. Not to mention, I think loans, typically like payday loans and things like that, have a very like are considered taboo for Google. Like they typically won't rank that, or gambling or porn. So there's certain things that they look at as being taboo. So you just have to kind of figure out a way around that, which can
Yeah.
be done. Just depends, unless it's against the law. So then in those cases, and state by state. So that's where it comes kind of important to actually speak to somebody in that industry.
Now, funnily enough, I thought this question meant I think businesses are going to need funding. What about lenders? I was going to say, hell yeah. If people want to rent your stuff or they want to buy your services but can't afford it, there are options where you can send them to. You can send people to PayPal loans. Do they call it PayPal loans or PayPal funding?
Something like that.
Something like
I
that.
hate that.
Basically,
Every time I log into my account or to my PayPal account, it says they do it on purpose. They they
it's because you
they
need the money,
load
Dan.
it at the top and then it goes down after it finally finishes loading. So it's making you think, oh, I have $150,000 in my PayPal account, which
Mm.
I would never recommend you have that much in your PayPal account. Because yeah, they've shut us down when we had 100 grand in our account, and they
Oof.
uh they shut our account down and held on to our money for over 6 months. So yeah,
Damn.
I would
I
not
gotta
leave
say,
more. The most I leave in our PayPal account now is 5 grand. That's it. Actually, no, I think I've
I
lowered it down to four now.
uh, that's a lot of money, Dan. I had
But
nearly two grand in it English, but as soon as all this started going a bit fruity, it went down by about £400 because the way that the exchange rates, because it came
oh
in dollars,
crap.
the way the exchange rates went, and I just pulled it all out straight away because I was like, I'm not playing this game. It might have gone up, who knows, but I did not want to play that exchange rate game.
Yeah, well, for most people, it depends on, because like we sell products and services, so
Mm,
most of our products and services are around $1,000. So you just want to
yeah.
make sure you have enough in there in case you have a couple refunds or chargebacks or something like that. So in the past, back when our products were less, we would have less in there. So like if I'm only offering services to customers, and my typical receivables aren't as high, then I'm going to go ahead and, I might have 500 bucks or $1,000 in my PayPal. And that's the most I'll leave in there. But in your case, like if you're not using PayPal for a lot of that stuff, then there's no reason to have more than 100 bucks in there.
Yeah, yeah. I just left it in. I was just so the missus didn't see it.
Nice. What
Now,
was that? Paula had a question. Did you see that one?
uh,
How quickly
about the
can we jumpstart get results if expedited? The jumpstart inside, if you're talking about the jumpstart, I mean, heck, you can get results as far as like Google rankings in minutes. And we like to say wait a couple hours, but we've gotten results in a few minutes. So, 10 minutes, sometimes less.
hmm
Sometimes it can hit a
yeah,
Google
it's
dance. Don't get all like
yeah,
scared if it doesn't show up in a day. Sometimes it can move
yeah.
around
We
a little.
We have
Yeah,
had
and get
people check it and see results and then tell somebody, and then that person looks and the results aren't there anymore.
yeah, and if your keyword dance, just find another keyword similar and just learn go back over to the validation. So don't stick. It's going to re-rank eventually. You just have to just all right. It's dancing. All right, let me get another keyword. Improvise.
Nice. Let's
Nice.
see.
Because you can't have too many keywords.
Rob saying, so glad I stuck around to the end. Us too. Yeah. Man, we have almost, I think we have like 80% of the people that we started with are still here. So that's awesome.
Mm. This is good. It's amazing. This is, I don't know, this is like something when Gary Vee does one of his ridiculously long vlogs or something.
Yeah. Esme is saying,
is,
I use Wave app for invoicing and it works better than PayPal, I think. I've actually heard of people using Wave app as well. And I was thinking about trying it out and checking it out. We use Slack. So we've just been using it for so long, but for sure, there's other ones out there you should definitely check out.
Okay, right. Larry's saying something. Some people have their PayPal rep tell them they're required to have 60K and 10% of, well, that's 10% of sales. Larry, I guess that's on a person by person basis.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah,
depends
that's
100% on those people and how long they've had the account, chargebacks, refund rate. I mean, all that
yeah.
stuff adds up.
If you've taken several million in a few months, they probably do require you to keep a boatload of money in there just for the chargebacks and stuff. But yeah, if you're just doing local stuff, a few K a month, you should be fine. Yeah, but we're not financial advisors, lawyers, or doctors. Well, I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a
Metaphysics.
medical doctor.
I'm not a medical doctor either. Metaphysics, baby.
Yeah,
Um,
but we're rock stars, so
yeah, Robert's asking,
Oh,
what's the quickest, easiest way to research content for a niche? Uh, man,
hmm.
how do I always
Well,
do it? I always just search
it
first. I
comes
just
from
search.
yeah,
keywords, doesn't it? It comes from your keyword research, and
It
that's
is.
you
yeah,
go down rabbit
yeah.
holes, don't
Yeah, to me is when you're doing your keyword research, you just take some of the content that's coming up when you do it. So when you find your keywords and you find your niche, you just start searching like Yahoo Answers, Quora, see what people are saying to grab your content. And it's like once you have your keywords, I think that's the basis of it all, as Tony was saying.
I also, um, I also, what I'll do a lot of times if it's a new niche or industry that I don't 100% know a lot about yet already, what I'll do is I'll Google that industry or that niche or service in a few big areas like Los Angeles. Sometimes I might search like Las Vegas. I'll search bigger areas and then I'll look and see how people's websites actually look, like the bigger ones, the ones that are like professionally done and look nice and have actually hired somebody to write their content. And I'll get ideas from that. I wouldn't copy and paste what they wrote, but I'm saying I get ideas and I might change it a little bit too. That's actually how I learned how to actually do any kind of copywriting is I would just copy and paste what people wrote that had spent money on a professional copywriter. Then I would take that and I would use that as my swipe file. Then I would paste that in there and then I would change it to fit whatever I was talking about. So they might have been talking about here's the 7 secrets or here's 7 tips to lose weight in the next 30 days. And I might be like, hey, here's, 5 tips on how to generate an extra, $1,000 in your bank account in the next 30 days. So I'll just kind of shift it a little bit, do the same thing with pool builders. I'll find services on there that I didn't even know they actually offered. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know they did those kind of systems, and it's something that you can kind of get ideas from and you can kind of get some research done. But again, don't copy and paste exactly what they wrote. Change it a little bit.
Oh, yes, because one of the things about, people hear about duplicate content and all this, and they kind of freak out. The real baseline is you need it to be 50 to 75% unique, as far as I understand it, because obviously Google's not going to go out and give the exact formula to everybody. So what I try and do is, if I'm pulling together different bits of information from different sites, you can just change a couple of words to mean the same thing. Obviously, don't change terminology for that industry, but it might say people love pizza. I might change it to people like pizza, for example. And if you bring in a few different paragraphs from different places, make a few different changes, well, there's no website in the world or on the entire internet that has those paragraphs on the same page, especially if you start changing stuff around. So you can get away with just getting a few big chunks of text, changing a few words. Bob's your uncle.
Yep.
And while I keep remembering this, then forgetting it. The one way, if you are married to a particular niche, one way to find regular content and to keep your finger on the pulse is to use Google Alerts. So that's alerts.google.com. So that's if,
Yeah.
for example, I know at least one person here, Benjamin, is he doesn't rank and rate. He's trying to get results for his own business. So what I would do in your specific case, Benjamin, is I would put in your keywords. So solar panels, whatever town, or solar power, whatever town, your business name and the names of your competitors. Put them all in as separate alerts, and then you'll get emails at whatever frequency you tell it to give you the latest news on that. So for example, with my Elton John guy, Elton John is on Google Alerts, and we get regular emails with anything that's coming out. And his competition in the tribute market, Elton John tribute, he dresses and sings and plays like Elton John. I don't know if you have tributes in the States, but he does that, and his competition are always furious that he's always ahead of the curve, because as soon as stuff comes through in that industry, bosh, and he is the industry leader because of that. Not just for his town, but for the entire United Kingdom. So that's a great little tip there. Alerts.google.com.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah, and we'll be, before Dan goes in, we'll be going over Google Alerts next week.
okay.
Oh,
Cool. What was what percentage did you say for people to watch out with?
well,
For
I
I forgot what you said.
I said 50 to 75%. I always aim for 75% unique personally, because it's not difficult to be 75% unique. But I have heard people saying 50%. But
Yeah, I
if you
don't
get
do. I
a few things
typically,
together.
well, again, a lot of the times I order, content, so it's 100%. It's pretty damn good. But when I have to tweak things myself, I'll typically do between 15 and 20%, which I know isn't the full recommendation for a lot of people, but I've gotten away with it for a long time, so I just haven't really changed it.
Mm. I think if you're bringing in content from two or three places and then change a few words, you can't help but have 50 to 75% minimum unique anyway. It's difficult not to make it unique unless you literally just copy and paste. So, but with you getting those results with that percentage or so, Dan, I think people needn't worry.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's more than 20%. I probably, I go for at least 20% ish, and I've been fine. So
Hmm.
just change it up
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, I mean, I've used Copyscape, like somebody said. Larry said, yeah, he uses Copyscape. Is it good nowadays? I really wouldn't worry too much about it. Just change a few things, and it's going to be unique enough. And if it doesn't rank, add more content. That's generally, add more content and go after a different keyword at the same time. All of this doesn't take very long, does it? So there's just crash on.
Yeah, no. And once you get down, so even finding your keywords, because I remember the first time I started to do keyword research, it was, I had lag time. But now, literally, whenever I'm assisting people with their keywords, it takes me a couple minutes, couple seconds at least to find them 5 other keywords that they could use. And it gets simpler over time. Just look at it, their niche, and then I was like, okay, then do this, blah blah blah, and I find keywords for them. So.
Well, we're 7 3/4 minutes from 4 hours. I
I think
ran out of
it's
beer
time.
a long time ago. My bucket is nearly full. Can we?
Yeah, I mean, I've been quiet for some time. I let you guys take over my webinar. Never going to happen again. Ever.
Just right, Robert. There is a website called Copyscape, and it used to give you a percentage, but now it just tells you if it's unique or not, as I understand it. But don't worry about it. I wouldn't lose any sleep over the uniqueness. I think that's all of the questions covered, guys. And yes, this is a record, Larry. I don't think we've ever had. Dan, have you ever done a webinar this long? I'm not just jam sessions, not include. I mean, even our team meetings have never gone on for nearly 4 hours. I'm
we've done some of our
mentally
coaching we've
exhausted.
done.
Really?
Or we actually gave everybody a break to go to the bathroom.
We probably should have thought of that.
Oh, I just turn up the volume, put myself on mute, and then go.
Well, I already explained my situation.
Good stuff. All right. Well, yeah, that's good. I mean, if there's any other questions, I don't know, where do you direct them? I forgot.
Any questions?
Rocks.
Rockstarhelp.com.
Yeah, guys.
And Tony's in the Facebook group as well too. If he loves it when you
If
ask
you
him
want some
stuff in
real
there.
granular answers and questions, yes, granular. Say granular a few more times, guys. Also, bear in mind, yeah, you can ask me stuff in the group, do whatever. That's fine. Please don't tag Ben and Dan. You can tag me, but I might not answer immediately because it's almost 10 p.m. here, and I'm gonna flop into my house. I'm not even home. I'm over the road from my house. I'm in the office, so
Well, Larry says he even took his
I'm
dog for a
clocking
walk while we're doing the webinar.
off.
Nice.
Nice. Oh God.
Cool.
Right. Well, rock off, guys.
Tony is real tired.
Don't
Well,
stop believing.
I'm gonna go get some throat tea after this.
And in the famous words of Dan, be a rock star in your business and in your life.
Actually, I changed it. I don't say business. I just say be a rock star in your life and make the world your stage.
Oh,
yeah.
Lord.
Keep on rocking. Woo!
All right, everybody.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good day. You hang up. No, you hang up.